There is society, then there is reality.
That's my dad. That's my dad.
Welcome. I am BBT, and you can ask me anything. How y'all doing tonight? I have a lot to talk about, so I'm going to jump right into it. Before I do, I'm on chapter 22, part 2 of Hebrews to Negroes. And let me just let y'all know, the book is heating up. It's already unpacked so much history, so many facts, so much detailed information. And then from 20 on, I mean, it's like it's heating up. And so I'm up to 22 is part 2 of it, but I want to share chapter 20. So before I do that, let me jump into some quick tweets of the day. First tweet, 19keys.e says, there's no group in America that has it worse than a black man. I agree. From slavery to Jim Crow to mass incarceration, taking us out of the home. It is what it is. And this book really expounds on a lot of that. Next tweet, the Wall Street Journal from WSJ opinion. FTX fell because Sam Bankman-Fried's supporter lost confidence in him. That may be how Donald Trump finally crashes and burns, too, writes Alicia Finley. And then Elon Musk said, yeah, that's definitely not the reason it failed. Boy, they just, the spin. This crazy world. What they want you to believe, they're going to frame it in a way to make you believe. So next week, this is from Elon Musk. Twitter added 1.6 million daily active users this past week, another all-time high. Mr. Beast there, I wonder what YouTube's daily actives is. And then Elon Musk said, let's see what happens when Twitter offers good video with higher compensation for creators. Yeah, I'm looking forward to competition. I think part of the problem with Facebooks and the Googles and the Apples, they've had monopolies over their respective areas. And I hope that we get an even playing field. I hope the more innovative companies come out, more risk takers jump out there to challenge these big behemoths. I wish someone would come out and challenge Amazon. I think there are stuff out there. I just don't use it yet, but definitely we need competition to even out the playing field. So yeah, it's interesting to see where Twitter is going in terms of trying to compete with YouTube. Next week, Ronald Don Jr. said Jews owned black slaves in the Americas and Caribbean. Germany paid the Jews reparations after the Luxembourg Agreement. Will the Jews give Negroes reparations? In the Torah, Exodus 21:16, it is forbidden to steal a man and sell him. How come we're not taught this in school? Yeah, man. Yeah. Why are we not taught so many things in school? And what you got to do, and what I truly believe, when you start to become awakened and you get this information, it's going to make you angry. It's going to make you upset. And I think that that's a mistake. You got to process it. You got to deal with it how you're going to deal with it. You got to heal, and then you got to teach. And you got to grow, and you got to make changes to your respective life to say, okay, listen, I know what the bullshit is. I know what the game is. I know what the rigness, that's not a word, but rigness that's going on. So I'm not going to move the same. So yeah, don't let it make you angry, upset, because that's what they want. Anyway, next week, Israel. I'm assuming it's the country in Israel. We would very much like to be excluded from this narrative. Yay, Kanye West got back on Twitter and he tweeted shalom and then a smiley face. And then Elon Musk responded, your tweets are good. More countries should tweet like this. No fun being all stuffy. So yeah, Elon and Ye, from what I believe, have a pretty good relationship. So it's good to see him sticking up and supporting the brother Ye. Next week, Bishop Tapper Swan, white men are shooting up gay clubs, and Charles Barkley is tap dancing on CNN saying black people are the worst at mistreating the gay community. Yeah, I don't have any words for Charles Barkley. I mean, what you can say about him, he's been consistent. He's always been what he's been, and that's his world, that's his life. And so, yeah, Charles is going to be Charles. So I think that we got to be careful who we look up to, who we call leaders, who we like. I think that that's, at the end of the day, you got to really see what their actions are showing about them. So next week, that's it. Final tweet. Those are the tweets for the day. Tweet. Tweet. So yeah, I want to play this video. This is another. I guess this Twitter too, so I should have probably um, not concluded. But anyway, let me play this and let me know what y'all thoughts are. Hold on.
One prediction I will make is that Twitter is going to be the ultimate cryptocurrency digital payments platform. That's Elon's ultimate goal for Twitter. That's why I believe when he brings it public again, it's going to be worth 150 to 200 billion dollars. He's going to take Twitter and turn it into the dream of what FTX would have loved to have been, but wasn't. That's going to be a huge catalyst where finally people who understand Twitter are going to be able to use cryptocurrencies. The cryptocurrencies, honestly, are too complicated for grandma and grandpa to use. Oh, I'm going to use some weird DeFi exchange and I have to keep track of wallets and private keys and passwords. And I'm 97 years old. How am I going to do this? There needs to be a clean interface. Twitter is going to become an interface. Where did David Sachs, Elon Musk, and all these people come from? PayPal, digital payments. And someone needs to make the interface, the front end to crypto easier, as opposed to this Wild West FTX stuff. Then this FTX stuff won't happen.
What do y'all think? Is this a bigger play or a play to really be the crypto god, the crypto platform? I think it's very intriguing. I've been following James. How did I say his name? James Mueller. I've been following him for Altucher. James Altucher. Definitely look him up. He's a very innovative individual. He looks crazy. He actually looks more normal than he did back in the day. But the man has been spot on in a lot of things in the past. And I think he might have something here. I don't know. Crypto, like I've said on past shows, and I've said repeatedly, I'm still a believer in it. And I believe that we had a lot of speculation, a lot of BS. Obviously, when you watch that Tucker Carlson thing, I think that crashing FTX and aspects of crypto is for a different play. It's for a government play. It's for a regulation play. So when you start to peel it back, crypto is still, I believe, a great tool. And I do believe it is the future. And you might be on to something here. Twitter may ultimately become the front face of crypto. And if it does, that would be an amazing thing because it would be like the leader in that space because I don't even know what's going on with OpenSea and some of the other ones, Coinbase and stuff like that. I don't think they're doing that well. So anyway, I got one more video to play before I jump into Hebrews to Negroes chapter 20. I wanted to play this and then share my comments.
It's owned by a Chinese company called ByteDance. And Harris says the version that's served to Chinese consumers, called Douyin, is very different from the one available in the West.
In their version of TikTok, if you're under 14 years old, they show you science experiments you can do at home, museum exhibits, patriotism videos, and educational videos. And they also limit it to only 40 minutes per day. Now, they don't ship that version of TikTok to the rest of the world. So it's almost like they recognize that technology is influencing kids' development, and they make their domestic version a spinach version of TikTok, while they ship the opium version to the rest of the world.
The version served to the West has kids hooked for hours at a time. The impact, Harris says, is predictable.
There's a survey of preteens in the US and China asking what is the most aspirational career that you want to have. In the US, the number one was influencer.
Social media influencer.
And in China, the number one was astronaut. Again, you allow those two societies to play out for a few generations, I can tell you what your world is going to look like.
TikTok tells us it gives American users tools to limit screen time, but those tools are entirely voluntary.
I've heard this on numerous occasions. I have first time actually, hold on one second. First time actually seeing a video on this, so I definitely wanted to share. I've heard that the American version of TikTok, we're doing twerking videos, boob contests. I mean, only reason I know about these TikTok things because of YouTube. When I'm on YouTube, all of the shorts, they usually pull in the videos from TikTok. So that's how I'm actually even up to speed on some of the things that go on the TikTok. I don't have the app. I don't use it. But yeah, it's definitely it floods YouTube. So obviously, when my feed comes up, I'm a human being. You see something looks interesting, you watch it. And yeah, I hear the American version is twerking contests and things like that. And then in China and other places, well, China, who actually is the maker of TikTok, they are educating their youth. They're getting them hooked on things that's going to help them really blossom and grow as human beings in the future. And now watching this video, saying like it's intentional. They're shipping us. We're getting you hooked. We're getting you to get caught up in crap while we are using it to better our society. And if you really pay attention, they're talking about who's going to be the dominant players in the next couple of years. You hear it, China, India, there's a few other places. But yeah, I mean, I work with a lot of individuals from India, and they're sharp. They're sharp and they're sharp at a very young age. They have really, 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 really good skill sets, and they're hard workers. And if that's just the norm of the educational society that they're in, that China's in, what do you think is going to happen in 5, 10, 15, 20 years? So, yeah, it's just interesting to see that China do it. They're smart as I don't know what. Like, listen, we're going to dumb y'all down and we're going to use it to be a very, very valuable resource for our kids and our future economy. And I think a very telling statement was for us, kids want to be YouTubers and influencers, and then they want to be astronauts. So I see where this goes. But yeah, I'm definitely going to do a little bit more research. I want to find more videos like that, and I want to share because it's very important for us to focus on our future, our kids. I believe that every kid should part of the curriculum in school should involve coding. Every kid should know how to code. They should at least know that that's like the second language. Well, it may eventually be the primary language. And our kids don't even know anything about it. Our adults don't know anything about it. So yeah. But anyway, I want to jump into chapter 20 of Hebrews to Negroes. Like I said, the book is heating up, and that's not to say the other chapters weren't really good. They were. But for me, what I'm listening to now really resonates. And I wanted you to, oh, I said chapter 20. No, it's actually chapter 21. So let me play this.
Chapter 21. How do I know what to believe if Satan and man have manipulated all the religion to confuse us? No lie can live forever. Martin Luther King. In the black church, especially with older church members, you can ask any black Christian the question, what color are the Jews? And 9 times out of 10, they will say, white. You can also ask a black person in the church, what color was Jesus? And some will say white, or some will say black, based on what they have researched in the Bible scriptures. But if Jesus was black based on deep research of the scriptures, then how come our church literature, Sunday school lesson plans, and churches throughout America have pictures of a white Jesus? The picture of a white Jesus has been deeply rooted in the minds of black and white children for centuries. The name Jesus, as well, has been deeply rooted in most people's minds for centuries, despite the King James Bible of 1611 verifying that his name 400 years ago was Isus. But what was the real name and physical appearance of the Son of God in the 1st, 7th, or 13th century AD? Has Jesus always been portrayed as a Caucasian white man? We only know what we've been told by our pastor and whatever Europeanized Bible version we have had to read from, King James Authorized Bible version. But nobody questions if our white European influenced Bibles are telling the whole truth about the story of the Hebrews and the prophets. We know the world as a whole could never accept and acknowledge that the Hebrews of the Bible were black, nor could they accept and worship a black Jesus. If they did, it would put black people on a superior race status and would change the course of history as we know it. But God has a reason and a purpose for everything. This same concept explains why we really don't ask questions, like questions about why there are different Bibles with different numbers of books. The same way as kids, we don't ask why we celebrate the Easter Bunny, who is Santa Claus, why we have a Christmas tree in our house, although possibly forbidden by God in Jeremiah 10, 2-4. Why do we celebrate Halloween? Why do we go to church on Sunday instead of the Sabbath? And where did the tooth fairy come from? However, I had the pleasure of asking the question, what color are the Hebrews, or Jews, to different races of people. Since most people did not know what a Hebrew Israelite was, I simply used the word Jew. I asked this question to people from Syria, Lebanon, Palestine, Israel, Iraq, Iran, Pakistan, India, China, Japan, Korea, the Philippines, Europeans, Russians, Latinos, and Africans. To my surprise, they all answered that the Jews and Jesus were white. However, what is interesting is that most people don't really research the Bible or ask for the answers to questions pertaining to the scriptures. People don't look outside of the Bible using historical and archaeological evidence. Tangible proof proves that the Egyptians did enslave the Hebrews and proves that they were a people of color. People don't realize that there have been numerous translations of the Bible through the hands of many men who were not righteous, inspired, or led by God. Many of our Bible translators have hidden pasts and beliefs in the occult, satanic worlds that go against God. Roman Emperor Constantine was still involved in pagan religious practices, even though he was influential in the Christianity movement through the Roman Catholic Church. This is one of the main reasons why the Christian church worships on Sunday, going back to ancient sun worship during those times. At the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD, the Roman Empire under Constantine made it law that the Christian day of worship was to be the same day that the Egyptian sun god Ra, or Horus, was worshipped, on called Sunday. In the Egyptian religion, Amun, Amon, was a local deity of Thebes, Egypt. He was the god of the wind and king of the gods. He would be later combined with the sun god Ra to be called Amun-Ra, Amen-Ra, or Amon-Ra, and afterwards known as the supreme god of Egypt during the Theban political supremacy. Note, sometimes Amen-Ra can be confused and mistakenly seen as a god in the Bible in the book of Revelations. Revelations 3:14. And unto the angel of the church of the Laodiceas write, these things saith the Amen, the faithful and true witness, the beginning of the creation of God. In Hebrew, Amen means be it so, or a variant of the verb to be, as is the name of God, I am that I am, or I will be what I will be, which would be interpreted as he that is. Below it is clearly seen that Amon, which is another way to say Amon-Ra, is referenced in the book of Jeremiah as a pagan god of Thebes, Egypt. Jeremiah 46:25. The Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, said, behold, I am bringing punishment upon Ammon of Thebes, and Pharaoh, and Egypt, and her gods, and her kings, upon Pharaoh and those who trust in him. Sun worship. Sun worship has been popular in many of the ancient pagan religions, but this was all by Satan's design. Satan used astrology and the planets to get mankind to worship other things instead of him. Satan and his fallen angels, watchers, knew Bible prophecy. Therefore, they knew how to create Jesus-like gods to deceive mankind. He knew Jesus would perform miracles. He knew he would be the only begotten Son. He knew that he was going to be born of a virgin, and he knew he was going to die only to be resurrected, and he knew that his birth would be announced by the angels. Satan used this known prophecy to fashion up a religion based on a God identical to Jesus. This way, he could get people to not believe in Jesus as the Son of God thousands of years later. Serapis Christus, Horus, Baal, and Zeus were all pagan gods that Satan used to influence the many nations of the world. Satan is all about being an imposter, a liar, and a deceiver. The same way he mimicked the prophecy of Jesus in his different satanic religions is the same way he is going to come back as the Antichrist, proclaiming he is the Most High before his judgment time. Note, Baal is also known in ancient history as the sun god, same as the Egyptian god Horus, Ra. The Israelites also worshipped the golden calf, Exodus 32, with the sun disk on top of its head termed the Apis bull, same as depicted on the heads of Egyptian gods Horus and Isis. The Sabbath is on Saturday, commanded by God, but man, Roman Emperor Constantine, went against God's order and his commandments. First, in 46 BC, before Jesus, Roman Emperor Julius Caesar established the Julian calendar, which he set to worship the Egyptian sun god on Sunday. He continued to worship pagan gods despite helping found Christianity. This is why he mandated that Christians worship on the day of the sun, or Sunday. This was quoted in the book of Daniel. Daniel 7:25. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and law, and they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of time. Satan even found his way into the Lord's temple, with people worshiping the sun in biblical times, just as it was practiced in ancient Egypt. Ezekiel 8:16. And he brought me into the inner court of the Lord's house, and behold, at the door of the temple of the Lord, between the porch and the altar, were about 25 men, with their backs toward the temple of the Lord, and their faces toward the east, and they worshiped the sun toward the east. As stated earlier, Satan knew the Messiah would come thousands of years later, and thus created different false religions for people to worship, which imitated the story of the Messiah prior to Jesus' birth. In the Egyptian religion, Satan established the first concept of a so-called trinity in Isis, Osiris, and Horus. Horus would be the begotten son of God, just as Jesus would be thousands of years later. Satan helped the Egyptians fashion up their own cross, which they called an ankh. The Egyptians' religion placed emphasis on sun worship. When the Greeks came to Egypt before the birth of Christ, they had little respect for the Egyptian animal-headed demigods. So they chose white, European-looking men to be the face of their gods in preparation for the image that would be known as the Messiah some years later. Again, Satan tried to mimic the Jesus story that would be known to the world years later. These gods ironically mimicked what the Europeans would portray the image of Jesus to be. The Greeks and Romans, under the control of Satan's power, would even add words to the names of these copycat gods, creating their Greek god Serapis Christus, similar to Jesus Christ. Osiris plus Apis became Serapis. Satan used his copycat imitative tactics to confuse mankind to not believe in Jesus Christ, as many people today believe that Jesus is a copycat of Horus, Heru, or Serapis Christus. This was Satan's way to deceive mankind from receiving the gospel of Jesus Christ, thus leading man to damnation instead of salvation, water and spirit baptism. One thing mankind cannot explain is Holy Spirit and the speaking of tongues, as the Spirit of God gives utterance. Jesus prophesied he would send the Comforter, which was the Spirit of God, Holy Spirit, and with it man would have power. The Holy Spirit is very much real today, as it was 2,000 years ago, and for this reason, Jesus Christ, aka Yahushua, Yeshua, Yahushua, or Yahshua, is real. Despite Satan's attempts to confuse the world with many different religions and deities, the Old Testament prophets with the Most High's power knew the truth about the prophecy of Jesus' birth thousands of years prior to his arrival. It is a known fact that the Old Testament has 44 prophecies concerning the Messiah that were foretold by God's prophets thousands of years before his birth and were all fulfilled some 2,000 to 3,000 years later. Here are a few. He was the seed of a woman. Prophecy, Genesis 3:15, and fulfilled in Galatians 4:4. He was a descendant of Abraham. Prophecy, Genesis 12:3, and fulfilled in Matthew 1:1. He was from the tribe of Judah. Prophecy, Genesis 49:10, and fulfilled in Luke 3:33. He was the heir to the throne of David. Prophecy, Isaiah 9:7, and fulfilled in Luke 1:32 through 33. His birthplace in Bethlehem. Prophecy, Micah 5:2, and fulfilled in John 1:2, Matthew 2:1, Luke 2:4 through 5:7. Born of a virgin. Prophecy, Isaiah 7:14, and fulfilled in Matthew 1:22 through 23, Luke 1:26 through 27, 30 through 31. Messiah would have his hands and feet pierced. Prophecy, Psalms 22:16 through 18, Zechariah 13:6, and fulfilled in John 20:20, John 20:25 through 27, Luke 24:38 through 40. Messiah would be called Emmanuel. Prophecy, Isaiah 7:14, and fulfilled in Matthew 1:23. Messiah's throne would be anointed and eternal. Prophecy, Psalms 45:6 through 7, Daniel 2:44, and fulfilled in Luke 1:33, Hebrews 1:8 through 12. Messiah would be Son of God. Prophecy, Psalms 2:7, and fulfilled Matthew 3:16 through 17. Messiah would be a sacrifice for our sin. Prophecy, Isaiah 53:5, and fulfilled Romans 5:6 through 8. The Old Testament was written in Paleo-Hebrew. During Cleopatra's reign in Egypt, the Paleo-Hebrew Old Testament was translated to Koine Greek. Ancient Paleo-Hebrew existed during the Egyptian dynasty. Prophecies about Jesus Christ would be made thousands of years before a man named Joshua, Yahushua, Yeshua, or Jesus even existed. People, we need to sit down, think, and use common sense. Otherwise, we can be easily tricked to believe anything that is put before our eyes. This is what is happening now. Satan, Lucifer, wants people to think that he is the Most High and that the Son of God didn't exist. Satan, ancient Egypt, and Aleister Crowley. Satan used the ancient Egyptians and their many pagan gods to deceive the Hebrews and mankind. Even today, many people believe that the real Holy Trinity is the Egyptian gods Isis, Osiris, and their son Horus. They believe because the story of these Egyptian figures are similar to Jesus' birth and death, that it must be the original religion, since it predates the birth of Jesus by a couple thousand years. Satanic followers know the real truth behind ancient Egypt and the pyramids. They know who lies behind all the secrets of ancient Egypt and its sorcery/magic. Satanists teach that the triangle is the ultimate symbol of Satan, and because of this knowledge, it is used by Satanists to conjure up demons. This is why we have pyramids, hexagram, pentagrams, and all-seeing eyes all throughout Western world culture in occult secret societies, the media, music, movies, and in the church. We see pyramid-type structures in Egypt, Sudan, Ethiopia, South America, and other remote places in the world. We also see pagan objects worshipped in Egypt, such as the obelisk, aka grove, aka Asherah poles, aka Baal's shaft, aka Washington Monument, all over the world in Brazil, London City, the Vatican, Washington, D.C., Egypt, Ethiopia, Sudan, and Israel. Jew Anton LaVey, founder of the Church of Satan, also confirmed the demonic satanic power of the triangle often used by Jay-Z as his Rockefeller sign at concerts and by the Freemasons, Illuminati, Jesus, Catholic Church, and the Rosicrucians. Known Satanist, Freemason, Jesus, Rosicrucian, and homosexual Aleister Crowley even has documentaries confirming the satanic demonic roots of the triangle or pyramid symbol. He was nicknamed the most wickedest man alive back in his time. He founded the Thelema religion and was known to wear a triangle hat with the all-seeing eye in the center. He was also a prominent leader of the OTO, Ordo Templis Orientis, secret society, and author of the Satanic Book of the Law, given to him by Satan. In one of his voyages to Egypt on the honeymoon night of his marriage to Rose Kelly in 1903, Aleister Crowley spent the night in the king's chamber in the pyramids of Giza in Egypt in total darkness. There he went on a spiritual voyage to find Satan and his forces of darkness. While in Pharaoh King Khufu's chamber, 4th dynasty, it is said that Aleister Crowley was visited by a being named Lam or Lama, which means he that goeth, a specific saying that the Egyptian god Osiris said in the Egyptian Book of the Dead, and Satan said in the book of Job 1:7. Aleister Crowley supposedly drew an image of Lam, which looked like a modern-day big-headed gray alien. Note, in Job 1:7, Satan is described as one that goeth to and fro in the earth along with the sons of God, fallen angels/demons. Fact 1. Paul Brunton, 1898 to 1981, was a British philosopher, mystic, and traveler who wanted to spend the night in the king's chamber, pyramids of Giza in Egypt. He knew of accounts where Alexander the Great and Napoleon had spent the night in the king's chamber only to have life-altering experiences. In his book, A Search in Secret Egypt, he tells his account of his night in the king's chamber in the pyramids of Giza. Here is an excerpt. He waited in the total silence and darkness, as remote from the outside world as if he were on the moon. Hours passed slowly by, and in the increasing cold of the chamber, Brunton began to feel that there were hostile forces around him. Eerie shadows crowded in on him from all sides, and a dark apparition advanced menacingly towards him. All the legends of evil ghosts haunting the areas around the pyramids told to him by Arab villagers came to his mind. Soon, there was a circle of antagonistic beings surrounding him, monstrous elemental creations, evil horrors of the underworld, as he described them. Despite being seized by panic, Brunton resisted the temptation to turn on the flashlight and decided to see it through. It was this determination that saved him. The elementals disappeared quite suddenly, and all was dark and quiet again. Fact 2. French Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte went to Egypt in 1798, where he also spent the night in Pharaoh Khufu's king's chamber in total darkness. When he emerged, it was reported that he looked visibly shaken. When an aide asked him if he had witnessed anything mysterious, he replied that he had no comment and that he never wanted the incident mentioned again. Years later, when he was on his deathbed, a close friend supposedly asked him what really happened in the king's chamber. He was about to tell him and stopped. Then he shook his head and said, "No, what's the use? You'd never believe me." After returning to Cairo in early 1904, Aleister's wife, Rose, who until this point had shown no interest or familiarity with the occult, began entering trance states and insisting to her husband that they were trying to contact him. All she would tell Aleister was that they are waiting for you. As a test, Crowley took Rose to the Bulak Museum in Egypt and asked her to point out who they were, since she had no prior knowledge or interest in the Egyptian religion or gods. She passed several well-known rooms with ancient Egyptian artifacts with images of different Egyptian gods and stopped dead in her tracks when she saw a painted wooden funerary stele from the 26th dynasty depicting Horus receiving a sacrifice from a deceased Egyptian priest named Ankh-Efun-Khonsu. Rose immediately said, "There he is," pointing to the picture of Horus. Crowley was stunned and was especially impressed by the fact that this piece had engraved in it the numbers 666, thus giving it the place for Exhibit 666 by the Cairo Museum, a number with which he had identified with since childhood. Rose then told him that Horus was going to reveal something to him later, and on one night, on April 8, 1904, Aleister Crowley was visited by a being called Iwas, who talked to him over his left shoulder, stating that he was the messenger of Horus, son of Osiris, the Egyptian god of the underworld. Iwas was also known as the minister of Harpokrat, Egyptian Harpokeret, which was more commonly referred to by the Greek transliteration Harpocrates, meaning Horus the child. In some instances, Iwas is also referred to as Horus himself. Aleister took down the dictation from the disembodied voice of Iwas and was able to make 3 chapters of what would be known as the mystic and occultic Book of the Law, with its slogan, "Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of law." This book of the law prophesied wars and revolutions leading to the collapse of Christianity and the beginning of the worship of Horus, or by some, Satan and his son, the Antichrist, in the eon of Horus. Aleister Crowley would later die in 1947, around the same year of the famous alien crash in Roswell, New Mexico, the beginning of creation of the State of Israel, and the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls in Qumran, Israel. Note, the famous saying of the Book of the Law, "Do what thou wilt is the whole of law," has been worn by many celebrities such as Jay-Z and Tyler, the Creator. Music stars often flip-flop between wearing Jesus shirts, Egyptian god shirts, and satanic/occultistic shirts in the public's eye. This sends a mixed message to viewers who look up to them as role models. James 1:8 says, "A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways." What we don't need is an upcoming generation that is morally and religiously confused or double-minded. Confusion and double-mindedness leads to homosexual, bisexual behavior. It also leads to mankind worshiping various gods or believing in no God. In 1976, the same disembodied voice calling itself Iwas spoke to a 21-year-old American in Beaverton, Oregon named James Charles Beck, 1954 to 2004. In 3 days in 1977, Iwas gave him the Book of Codes, and a year later, the Book of Oz. Together, they would be known as a collection under the title, The Book of Perfection. In 1980, Iwas gave Mr. Beck a short dictation called Liber 75 vel Luciferi, similar to Lucifer. Iwas, who Beck referred to as the angel demon of Horus, indicated to Beck that the short dictation was only a conversation. In it, the angel or demon, Iwas, proclaimed that I and God are one, and the angel, who am I, is one with God. The angel demon of Horus was obviously not of the God Most High, El Elyon. If he was, he would name their conversation after Lucifer. This angel could have been the demonic angel Metatron, who is considered the lesser Yahweh, the Kether, and the crown in the Babylonian-inspired Jewish Kabbalah. In this conversation, it is clear that this angel is really a demon, and that Satan or Lucifer is his master. In these books, inspired by Iwas, they, Iwas, and other demons give praise to Greek gods such as Zeus, Apollo, Mercury, and Bacchus, Dionysus. The Book of Perfection should be called the Book of Deception because it challenges readers to distinguish truth from falsehood, reality from illusion for his or herself. However, Satan is the father of lies and is like a wolf in sheep's clothing. He wants to be God and to be worshipped as God. In the Aleister Crowley's book, upon achieving 4 major spiritual initiations, God, or better said, Satan is able to be seen as a visible object of worship because according to the demons and ancient Egyptian religion, his, Satan's, visage, face, is the sun in the sky, Sol, or Helios, Greek, meaning of sun, the star of our world which orbits in the solar system. But God's name is revealed as Ra-Hua-Kuit, which means Ra, Horus of the horizon, the same hawk-headed Egyptian god known as the sun god, Ra/Horus. 2 Corinthians 11:14. No marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light. Fact, Venus, which is associated with Satan, often shines in the horizon with the moon just before dawn. Lucifer is known as the son of the morning, or shining one. The sun god Ra, Horus, is synonymous with Satan and his son, the Antichrist. Horus in the Egyptian religion is always depicted with a hawk falcon head, with a sun wrapped in a snake on top of his head. He is also known for having his left eye gouged out, which is the same eye many celebrities, musicians, actors, athletes, and media moguls put emphasis on right in front of our faces on TV every day, along with the pyramid triangle image or devil horned hand sign. The significance of Metatron and Satan. Now, a lot of musicians and actors today are wearing or showing a pyramid inside of a circle, with or without the all-seeing eye. What this represents is not the God of Israel, but Satan, aka Lucifer, and his demonic forces. These musicians, actors are wearing necklaces with triangles, all-seeing eye charms, and they have it in plain sight in their videos or on TV. One in particular is the famous Latino singer Carlos Santana. Carlos Santana told Rolling Stone magazine in the summer of 1999, more than half a year before his stellar showing at the 42nd Annual Grammys. I know it sounds new age, but in my meditation, this entity, which is called Metatron, he said, we want to hook you back to the radio airwave frequency. We want you to reach junior high schools, and universities. Once you reach them, because we are going to connect you with the best artists of the day, like the Grateful Dead, then we want you to present them a new menu. Let them know that they are themselves multidimensional spirits with enormous possibilities and opportunities. We want you to present them with a new form of existence that transcends religion, politics, or the modus operandi of education today. Carlos Santana, Rolling Stone magazine, summer of 1999. As with other musicians and actors, Santana admitted that there was a spiritual entity behind his music. Santana claimed he had contacted the dead spirit of Jimi Hendrix. Santana claimed that his first initiation into the spiritual world took place when he first ingested the legal drug LSD in the 1960s. This already should warn readers that whatever spirit he was channeling was not of God. The Most High God does not need us to ingest LSD in order for us to connect with him. Other musicians and actors such as Lady Gaga, Katy Perry, Keisha Sherbert, Nicki Minaj, Beyonce, Bob Dylan, Johnny Depp have made reference to a type of force or spiritual control that takes over them when they perform or act. Some of them have even admitted, jokingly or not, to selling their soul to the devil. Kanye West, Katy Perry, Keisha, Tupac, Eminem. Others have alter egos, also known as spirits, that take over their bodies once they perform. Example, Nicki Minaj, Roman. Beyonce, Sasha Fierce. Lady Gaga, Joe Calderone. Eminem, Slim Shady. Katy Perry, Katy Patra. Likewise, Carlos Santana claimed that while he played at Woodstock, the mecca of rock and roll, his guitar became a serpent before his eyes and inspired the way he played, which made him a famous rock guitarist. Santana admitted that his success is tied to a spiritual entity, Metatron. Note, in the Zohar, a holy book of the mystical branch of Judaism, Metatron is supposedly an archangel who was Enoch in human form before being taken up into heaven. There are also reports that he is one that blasphemes God by saying he is the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. This sounds like Satan and his tricks. In the Kabbalah, Metatron is connected to Kether, whose secret name is Eye, which in Hebrew means I am, short for the name of God that was given to Moses. Metatron supposedly oversees Kether, which means the crown. Kether is situated at the top of the Kabbalah tree of life, Sephiroth. The name God gave Moses, Eye Asher Eye, means I am that I am, is linked to Metatron Kether, who stands alone with the crown at the top position in Judaism. However, Metatron and his hexagram, Star of David, seal, are always linked with the satanic demonic world and is in the same as the Egyptian god Horus Heru. The names Metatron, similar to Megatron in Transformers, both share the same storyline of being evil with the desire to destroy mankind. From the looks and sounds of it, it seems that Carlos Santana was channeling demons and the devil himself. Here is another disturbing excerpt from Rolling Stone magazine. Metatron is an angel. Santana has been in regular contact with him since 1994. Carlos would sit here facing the wall, the candles lit. He has a yellow legal pad at one side, ready for the communications that will come. It's kind of like a fax machine, he says. Cover story, The Epic Life of Carlos Santana. Santana, Rolling Stone, March 16, 2000. By his own words, Santana admits to having communications with a demon named Metatron. He tells me more about Metatron. Metatron is the architect of physical life. Because of him, we can French kiss, we can hug, we can get a hot dog, wiggle our toe. He sees Megatron in his dreams and meditations. He looks a bit like Santa Claus's white beard and kind of this jolly fellow. Metatron, who has been mentioned in mystical disciplines through the ages, also appears as the eye inside the triangle. Cover story, The Epic Life of Carlos Santana, Rolling Stone, March 16, 2000. Based on this account, it seems that the mass media subliminally is promoting the worship of Satan through the disguise of Metatron. The seal of Metatron is the hexagram and is also the triangle inside of a circle, often with an all-seeing eye, representing Horus, Heru, Lucifer, or Satan, watching the world from another dimension. The eye inside the triangle shows the allegiance of Christ rejectors, God haters, and Satan worshippers. This triangle inside of a circle with the eye is also seen in Freemasonry, the Jesuits, Catholic churches, Rosicrucians, the Illuminati, and Judaism. Satan worshippers Aleister Crowley and Anton LaVey also use this circle triangle eye symbol as it is a very powerful satanic symbol, often used to conjure up demons. Aleister Crowley, nicknamed the wickedest man alive, and the beast.
So look, I'm going to stop it there. I'm getting a little tired. I'm gonna stop it there. But there's about 15 minutes left in the chapter. You can see how deep this chapter goes into satanic things. Like I've always kind of brushed it off. I hear things like the Illuminati, all these symbols, these signs that people wear. But yeah, he kind of goes into a little detail and kind of shed some light on it. So I actually, after I read it, I went and cross-referenced to a few things, and I had my thoughts on it. And my thoughts, yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot to unpack. I mean, I'm still kind of cross-referencing, doing my research, but I think it's important to understand how this all plays into all of this in terms of understanding the history, understand how things are covered up, and understand how things are still happening today right before our eyes. So I think that's it for me. I hope you all have a great night. Definitely pick up the book, Hebrews to Negroes on Audible. I think it is getting removed from certain platforms. So you can go directly through the author. There's a website. I don't know it offhand, but go to his Twitter. You can follow him, and he has plenty of posts of how you can pick up the book. Listen, and you come to your own conclusion. For me, it's very eye-opening and enlightening for me because, like I said, I've always kind of dismissed certain things as, oh man, that's whatever. And when he kind of breaks it down a little bit more, it's like, oh, Okay. All right. So that's it. Y'all have a good night. Peace.